Hello and welcome today. I'm very excited to bring you the new Guerlain Terracotta Blushes. So there are 6 shades. I purchased all 6. So we're going to look at these. We've got some comparisons to do. We've got cheek swatches. So let's go ahead and we're going to start off with the arm swatches. All right, so this one here is shade 00 Nude Clair or Light Nude. And you can see it's a very soft kind of peachy pink shade here. And this is one swipe. So this is going to be intended for fair skin. You can see what it looks like buffed out. And I would say it's really more of a soft peach with a little bit of pink in there. Next, we have shade number 1. This is Rose Clair or Light Pink. And I have this on the majority of my cheeks right now, but I also have the deep pink on the apples, kind of blended out a little bit. So this here is going to be kind of your soft rose, kind of more of your traditional rosy pink. It does have a little bit of that dusty vibe in there that works really well and make it look pretty natural. And I'd say it's a neutral soft rose. This is shade number 2, Coral Clair or Light Coral. And you can see here that this one definitely has a warmer tone to it. It's really more of an orangier coral. So more of like a soft orange coral. I think it's a really pretty warm tone shade. It's not quite peach. It's almost a deep peach with a touch of pink. That's how much peachy orange vibe is in this coral. So we've looked at 3 shades. We had the light nude, light pink, and light coral. Now we're on the deeper version. So this is 3 deep nude or nude foncé. And this to me is a bit more of your burgundy blush. So you can see it's got a little bit of that brick red burgundy vibe in there, and you can see it's definitely significantly deeper. It is not just a deeper version of the light nude though. The light nude is really going to be more of that soft peach. This is going to be more of a soft brick red. Number 4, this is Rose Foncé or Deep Pink. And this is what I have on the apples right now. And you can see that this is really going to be more of your deep fuchsia pink. And right off the bat, the first blush it made me think of color-wise is the Sisley fuchsia in the Sisley Fido Rouge blush or Fido, whatever it's called, Fido blushes. Now, this one here is number 5. So this is our 6th shade. This is Coral Foncé or a deep coral. And you can see here that this is going to be a deeper coral than the light coral, but it's not as much of a drastic difference between this deep coral and the light coral as it is with the other light and deep shades. And you can see that this actually has a little bit more pink in this coral. This one is still actually light enough. I would say that, these 3 here are, these 2 in particular are very fair, light. These 2, both corals, are actually going to be more medium depth, and these 2 are going to be your deepest. So we're going to talk about all the details, but first, let's just take a quick look at the packaging. We do have our traditional terracotta packaging. So it does come in a cardboard box. You can kind of see there's like an insert here just to make sure that this rounded dome part gets crushed during shipping. So, there are no utensils or anything with it. So they do come in a box, and we have this typical packaging here. It is going to be a click closure. You can see this is going to have to click in, and we do have a mirror at the top. So let's move on to the details and demos. The terracotta blushes have 5 grams of product. They have a 1-year shelf life, and they are made in France. They retail for $55 US, and I purchased mine directly from the Guerlain website. Now, just like other Guerlain terracotta items, they do have that terracotta fragrance in them. Now, I'd like to say it's not overpowering. It's not quite as strong as the Guerlain terracotta bronzers, but it's close. So while it's not overpowering, it is a very strong fragrance. So if you are not a fan of the terracotta fragrance, these blushes are probably not for you. I did open mine up and let them air out for a little bit because I'm not the biggest fan of the fragrance personally, but I'm happy to say it's not as strong as the bronzer. It does fade, like you don't notice it as much as you're wearing it, but upon initial application for a good like 10-15 minutes, you might notice it still. So after a while, it kind of fades, and whether it's there or not, it's not noticeable anymore. So let's take a look at some of the details from the Guerlain website. It says the terracotta blush, formulated with 90% naturally derived ingredients, transparently reveals and sets cheekbones with a delicate shade reminiscent of the freshness that rises to the cheeks after an outdoor escape. With its lightweight and airy texture, this long-lasting and comfortable powder blush reveals skin's natural undertones under a perfectly balanced, ultra-buildable, and second skin veil of color. Now, these all have your matte finish. It's not going to be a powdery, dry looking matte. These actually feel not quite as smooth and silky as a pressed pigment, but they do have that pressed pigment texture to them. They're very firm in the pan. There's no like hiccup or anything, yet the powder comes up very easily, and they are definitely very buildable. They have a nice soft matte texture. And again, you can go from sheer to more full coverage with these. I think it's a really nice formula. When I first touched the formula to swipe them with my fingers, the first time I felt them, it first made me think of the Chanel blushes in the permanent line, those that have, were reformulated a year or two ago. So that's kind of what I thought of at first. So I wanted to play around with them and see how they perform. These are definitely not like them. The formula is not like them at all, although at first touch, it might feel that way because they are going to be kind of firmly pressed in the pan. But these succeed where the Chanel ones did not. So again, we have that sheer buildable color, very easy pigmentation to build up and blend out. And I really love how buildable these are. And you can see in the cheek demos, I used the Sonia G Sky Series Classic Cheek for one side to give you a lighter application, so you can kind of see how easy it is to get a light wash of color. And then I built it up more on the left side of my face, so you could really see how deep those colors get. And that was with the Sonia G Smooth Buffer Brush. So you can see they are definitely buildable, very comfortable to wear. For me, the only negative to these really is the fragrance, which I personally wish was not present or was more subtle than it actually is. Now, a little bit more from Guerlain. It says these are deeply connected. Now, a little bit more from Guerlain. Deeply connected to the spectacle of nature, Violette, Guerlain Makeup Creative Director, has designed a palette of 6 blush shades, drawing her inspiration from the original spectrum of the earth. 6 shades that can be worn to match your complexion and your personal preferences. 3 tones, nude, pink, and coral, each available in 2 intensities, light and dark. Now, a little tip from Violette that is on the Guerlain website. She says, for an even more natural result, apply the blush to the center of the cheek where skin naturally blushes. To add dimension and create contrast, I like to blend a warm and a cool shade of terracotta blush. This creates a unique color tailored to each person. So I think she did a really great job with the color palette here. And I love the different intensities. The formula is, it's a really nice, easy to use formula. So overall, I have to say, I think they are really nice blushes. And I'm really happy that I have all 6 of the shades. Let's go ahead and take a look at some other blushes and how they compare. All right, so we have all of our 6 Guerlain shades here. We're going to start off by looking at the Sisley Lafido blushes. And I'm just going to put a little swatch here so we can see how they compare to certain colors. But then I'm going to remove those before we move into some more major comparisons. We're going to start off with the Lafido blush in number 1, Pink Peony. And this formula here is more of your gel powder formula. So I wanted to show you how different these pinks are. You can see this is going to be a cooler tone pink, and it is going to be significantly different from 0 and from number 1 from Guerlain. This one here is number 2. This is the rosy fuchsia shade. And this is what I thought of first when I saw shade number 4. But you can see here that they are different. We have a little bit more plum in the Guerlain, whereas the Sisley is going to be a little bit brighter fuchsia. There is a little bit of that blue undertone in there, but we have a little bit more of that purpley plum in the Guerlain. Now, as I mentioned, the Sisley blushes, these are a very different formula. It's gel powder, so it's a little bit creamier in texture, and it builds up very nicely. This is shade number 3, Coral. And let's go ahead and put this one next to the deep coral. And you can see we'll put it next to light coral as well, so you can kind of see how they compare. And the Sisley has more pink in it than either of them. It's also a little bit deeper. And then this one here is number 5, Rosewood, which this is one of my favorite blushes. We're gonna go ahead and put this one right here by shade number 3. This is the deep nude. And you can see they are very similar. The Sisley is going to be a little bit more pink. It's a little rosier, whereas we've got a little bit more warmth in the Guerlain, a little bit more brick. But otherwise, they're pretty similar. It's kind of like a cool and a warm counterpart of the same shade. So those are going to be our Sisley Lafido blushes. All right, so we have our Guerlain here, 0 through 5. And then on this arm, we're going to go ahead and swatch the Gucci blushes. So these do have a similar formula. They're 5.5 grams of product. Meanwhile, the Sisley, by the way, were 6.5 grams of product, but they are significantly more expensive. So the Gucci are definitely more comparable in size and price. So we're just going to go ahead and swatch all of the Gucci blushes in numerical order. This one here is shade number 1, Silky Rose. And I'm going to swatch these, but we're not going to buff out all of them because I just don't have enough space. So I will try to buff out just a little bit kind of here at the end so you can kind of see what that shade looks like buffed out, but we don't have enough space to do everything separately. So you can see right off the bat that this is more of a deeper version of shade 0. It's a little bit more pink than shade 0 from Guerlain, but it's not as rosy as shade number 1. Number 2, this is Tender Apricot, and this is going to be more of a soft orange with a little bit of like yellow in here. So this is going to be closest to our light nude shade, which is shade number 2. But you can see that this is going to be more orange, and it's a little bit brighter because it has a little bit more yellow in it. It's like got a brighter yellow base. Next, we have shade 3. This is Radiant Pink. And this is going to be a bit of a deeper, warmer pink than what we saw in number 1. And you can see that this is going to be closest to shade number 1 from Guerlain, which is this one here, but it is significantly warmer. This is going to be more of a salmon pink. We have shade number 4, Bright Coral. And this one here, this is our coral, but again, you can see it's not a super pinky coral. This is going to be pretty close to shade number 3, or shade number 2, Light Nude. So our 3rd shade here. So you can see color-wise, those are pretty close. This one from Gucci, it has just a little bit more red in it. My favorite Gucci shade, number 5, Rosy Beige. And this is just a great kind of soft rosewood with a little bit of like, it's a little bit of like a nude mauve. And you can see we don't have anything like that in the Guerlain. Shade number 6 is Warm Berry. And this is going to be a bit more of a deep, kind of a brick red with a little bit of chocolate mixed in. You can see it's definitely going to be a little bit more cinnamon colored than the this one here, which is going to be our deep nude, and that is shade number 3. Shade number 7 is going to be a light, cool tone pink. There's a little bit of blue in this pink, and you can see here that this is going to be lighter and brighter than anything that we have in the Guerlain. 8, Soft Red. And this is really going to be more like a coral shade here. You can see it is an orangey red. So it's definitely a warm tone, soft red. I would say it's kind of a mix between the deep nude and the deep coral, but doesn't quite match either of those. And then last up, we have shade number 9, Intense Plum. This is my other favorite shade from the Gucci. And you can see here, this is more of your cooler tone red with a little bit of plum in there. But this is essentially a cooler version of the deep nude. So these would be the Gucci, followed by the Guerlain. All right, next we're going to take a look at Tom Ford. So these are duo blushes. So you always get 2 shades in each. We're going to go ahead and swatch our 2 like this so we can see both shades together. And I wanted to kind of show you that these 2, we're going to swipe them mixed together right below that. You can see that that is going to be closest to shade 0. So this is number 1, Brazen Rose from Tom Ford. That's closest to the light nude. Number 2, Explicit Flush. We don't have shades exactly like this one here. You can see we have kind of more of your, in general, the Tom Ford are going to be dustier. You got more brown tones in there. And then we have this kind of brighter orange shade, which does not, it's like a brighter orange coral, but we don't have a shade like either of those in the Guerlain. So this is what they look like mixed. And it's more of a, I would say it's closest to the deep coral, but it's really not a good comparison. Here's 3, Peach Poison. And again, we've got more of those like brown tones in here as well. We have this deeper peachy shade here, deeper orange. And this is going to be a deeper version of shade number 3, the light coral, which again is more orange than the deep coral. This is 4, Cherry Blaze. And you can see here we have kind of this soft peach and a more reddish coral here. This is what they look like mixed together. This is a slightly more orange version of number 5 from Guerlain. And yeah, otherwise, I would say they don't quite, the shades on their own don't quite go with any of the Guerlain shades. 5, Sundrunk. And you can see this is going to be kind of like your soft warm nudes and a rosy shade, but you can see that this is definitely going to be a bit more nude overall than the Guerlain. So again, just a very different vibe. And last up, we have number 6, Aflame from Tom Ford. These are your pinks. And you can see we have a very, very soft light pink, kind of this deeper shade here. And this deeper shade is more of a lighter, soft version of shade number 3, which is the Intense Nude. And you can see our light pink is a softer version of shade number 1, Light Rose or Light Pink. So see how those match up. So we have Tom Ford on the top, Guerlain on the bottom. Next, we're going to take a look at the Hermes blushes. Now, these are the Rose Hermes, and we're going to put the swatches here because, you know, the color line overall, we've got more of a peachy undertone in those shades. So there are only a few that are kind of similar. So this is 28 Rose Plume, and you can see this is going to be a nice light pink. We're going to put this right here near shade 0, and you can see it's a little bit peachier. Now, this formula is a very silky, smooth powder formula. This is a little bit more of a powdery product than the Guerlain. The Guerlain feels firmer in the pan than the Hermes. Then this one here is number 61, Rose Feu. And we're going to take a look at how this compares to number 3, which is the Deep Nude. You can see those are very, very close. We have a little bit more red, just the tiniest bit more red in the Hermes. This one here is 32 Rose Pommette. And let's see how Rose Pommette compares. We're going to put this right here next to 0 and 1, but you can see it's going to be a warmer pink. And this one here is 23. This is Rose Blush. And I want to see how this compared to the light coral, but you can see again, we have kind of that stronger, brighter peach vibe to it. This one here is 54, Rose Nuit. And let's go ahead and see how this one compares to, we'll put it here, kind of close to shade number 1, but it's going to be deeper. Let's also put it over here, kind of closer to the Deep Nude, but it's again a bit rosier. And last up, this is 45, Rose Ombre. And I want to see how this compared to shade 0. but you can see this has a bit more brown in it. It's more nude. So those are some Hermes comparisons. All right, so we're just going to do a few more comparisons. This is a shade 51 from Armani, and this is a nice pink. We're going to see how this compares to shade number 1. You can see it's going to be a deeper, brighter rose, a little bit cooler in tone. This one here is shade number 30. I wanted to see how this compared to our coral shade, and you can see that this is deeper, but tonally, it's pretty similar to the light coral shade. It's definitely more orange than the deep coral. This one here is 61, and that is pretty close to the deep nude. They're pretty close, but let's also see this one is 40. This one's a little bit more red. Put that one here. Yeah, it's too red. Definitely 61 is closer. And then I also wanted to take a look at 60 and see how that compares. We'll put that right there. You can see that's going to have more purple in it. So 61 is definitely closest to deep nude. All right, and then last up, we're going to take a look at the Givenchy Prisme Libre blushes. So we're going to put these right there as well. This is shade number 1. And this is going to be lighter and pinker. I'm going to put this right here at the top so you can see, right off the bat, it's not going to be similar to anything in here. These are a really silky loose powder blush. They blend out so easily, and I find them to be one of the easiest blushes to use. They're so easy. The only detriment to them, in my opinion, is they can be a little bit messy because of the loose powder, and I feel like square lids always make things a little harder. Now this is shade number 2, and see how that compares. It's going to be a warmer pink than shade number 1. Number 3 is going to be more of your like orangey coral shade. So see how that compares to our light coral. Let's see how this one looks down here at the deep coral here. You can see it's got a more vibrant orange in there than either of those. Shade number 4, let's take a look at this right here. It's kind of a more brown, warmer tone version of number 3, deep nude. Not the best. And just 2 more here. We have number 5, and this is going to be our let's put this here. You can see it's more red than shade number 4. Having a shade 0 keeps messing me up in my mind, but I would say that these are pretty close. This is just going to be a little bit more red than shade 4. And last up, this is shade number 6. Let's put this right here. Compare that to the coral. It's definitely more of a really deep orangey coral shade. Actually, it has more brick in there as well, almost like a brick coral. So those are the Givenchy. All right, so my final thoughts on the Guerlain Terracotta blushes. I think these are a really nice formula. Packaging is not my favorite, partly just because it does make it harder to stack these nicely in a drawer, which is how I like to do mine because of the dome top. Also because we have basically, this separation between the top and so forth. I always end up going to the wrong spot to open mine. So just a little pet peeve. The fragrance, I think, is also a con for me because it is pretty strong. But if you're somebody who loves the Guerlain Terracotta fragrance, you're going to love having that in your blush. And overall, I think the formula itself, though, is really nice. I love how sheer and buildable it is. It has a nice silky texture. It is firm in the pan, so you're not making a mess with anything, yet it's super easy to pick up and blend out. So formula is definitely like an A+ formula. And I'd love to know your thoughts. Let me know if you've tried any of these and which shades are your favorites. So thank you so much for tuning in. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you very soon.